Well, I guess we're going to see if we can get through this one. I am Tommy, and you are on the Love Boat. What's happening? I'm not going to say hi to all of you because I got the worst signal I've ever seen. I'm not going to be long on here either. You probably noticed that the Johnny Scoville didn't go live tonight. Oh, what the hell. Archie's mom, good to see you. Barbara, Chica Cherry Cola, good to see you. So I have been really going through it. This trying to get the poison water out of our system it's ridiculous, especially when you're old, because old guys have a problem with the whole, going to the bathroom constantly anyway thing. And when you're trying to drink 3 gallons of water a day or 2 gallons of water a day, it just gets to a point where it's a frustrating existence. And what's the worst part is I felt better yesterday than I feel today, which doesn't make a lot of sense to me and kind of bums me out. But I'm going live for one reason and one reason only, and it's because I am on to this story in a way that I haven't been before. Let me explain to you why AI sucks, which is just a side note, by the way. This is about Epstein, but this dovetails in Lovey. When Ghislaine Maxwell sat down with the Department of Justice, she did an interview. And I'll be honest with you, I didn't read the entire interview. I went to Google, and Google decided that what was important was that here's what she said about the client list. Here's what she said about this. Here's what she said about that. And one of you actually sent me an email that said, have you read that entire interview? And I said, no, I have not. And they said, I think you should. And most of the really great stories that I've gotten onto on the Love Boat in the time that I've been doing this came from things just like that. So I tend to trust you guys. Hello, Kellyanne. Good to see you. Caroline in Canada. Diane, how are you? Barbara Aldrich, what's up? I'm sure Jane is here. Good to see you. So if you remember, when I talked about Epstein, we talked about the fact that Ghislaine Maxwell filed a document with the Department of Justice that said, you can't charge me. You can't. I have a deal that not only do I have immunity, but any of my co-defendants have immunity. And we said, why the hell would they do that to somebody that molested as many people as this guy did? It doesn't make any sense at all, right? Hey, Air Supply. So AI thinks the important part of that interview has to do with whether or not there's a client list. AI wants to tell you through Google or anybody else you use as a search engine, and this is why we can't trust them. They're going to steal the narrative of this, and they're going to push it in the direction that they want it to go. And we're talking about Jeffrey Epstein, and the story is wrong. This isn't about who was going to this guy's island and doing all of that stuff. What it was about was who was cutting deals. And in this interview that Ghislaine Maxwell did, keep in mind, she filed papers and said, I want to go in front of the Department of Justice. I'll answer any questions you want. And the takeaway was, the questions were softball. Hey, Rocket Queen, Brock Bandy, what's happening? They didn't ask him anything hard hitting, and they weren't pushing whether or not Trump was involved or this or that. And I said, if Trump was involved, why wouldn't the Democrats have reported this when they had the entire U.S. System on lock? They had the House, they had the Senate, they had the White House. Why wouldn't they have done it? They could have shredded him right then. And my theory was that it went to the top of both parties or something along that line. But here's a couple of things that came out from that interview when I started reading it. So Ghislaine Maxwell sits down with the Department of Justice. She describes her involvement helping to form CGI. And they use CGI over and over and over again. You very rarely hear what that stands for. And by the fourth time they say it, you're just tuning out. It's some probably not. It's the Clinton Global Initiative. Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein helped the Clintons start their charity. They provided them jets to fly around to all of the countries. And Bill Clinton's wife sold access to the U.S. government. If you think that this isn't real, you stay seatbelted in. I promise you. Loretta Lynch is hot in this. There are so many people that are filthy in this, including Barack Obama. Remember all those emails that got destroyed and all of that stuff? That wasn't top secret stuff. It was about all of the people that Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein set up for the Clintons to go see so that they could bring in literally $250 million. It's a money laundering scam. As a United States politician, you can't take cash from another country while you're in office for anything without any shadow of a doubt. They have ungodly amounts of proof because I found it easily, right? No AI assistance. I found it easily. Look at what Morocco did while she was in office. Not only did Morocco say they were giving $12 million to the Clinton Global Initiative. Keep in mind, she was just Secretary of State. Barack Obama's in office, knew this was going on. So they pledged $12 million. She cancels at the last minute and says she's not going to be able to go out there and speak with them at some party type deal they were having. And they said, well, if you don't come out, we're not paying you the money. That's pay for play. That's bribery. Of all of the people that she met with, over 80% of them had donated to the Clinton Global Initiative. This is no BS, cut and dry, selling the United States government and pocketing all of the cash. So once she gets caught with that jinky server in her bathroom closet, everybody involved has to start doing some serious covering of stuff up. Now, I said a while ago, I happen to believe that we lost the current president. I no longer have any faith in him. I'm sorry, I don't. I know people are going to hate me for that, at least half of you. Okay, Canadian. How do you stop peppers from burning? I accidentally cut a Scotch bonnet, washing my hands 4 times. Didn't help the burn, nor did milk. You know what works perfect for that? About 2.5 hours. Knock it out like that, right? 2.5? Yeah. Johnny Scoville backs that up, and he knows way more about peppers than I do. Okay. If the FBI came at me when I was in trouble for selling guns, and they said, we want to look at your phone, and I said, I smashed my phone with a sledgehammer, they would have charged me with destruction of evidence. And if I said my computer was bleach bitted and I removed everything from it, I'd have gone to prison. Here's another thing you might find interesting. Do you remember when the head of the FBI came out and said, we're not going to charge Hillary Clinton for this? It's just simply not going to happen, right? No reasonable prosecutor would charge her. He has zero authority to come out and say that. He's the head of the FBI. Our government is cut into sections, but they don't teach civics anymore. So nobody in America even paid attention. It was one of these. That should have been the head of the Department of Justice, but that would have looked really bad because that would have been Loretta Lynch at the time, and that would have really looked ugly, right? Super ugly. But you know why that happened? UBS. You know who that is, Johnny Scoville? Did you not? It is the biggest bank in Switzerland, and it is where really, really rich people from the United States and other countries, a lot of Nazis did it during World War II, and a lot of white folks have a lot of money in those banks. And the reason you go there is they have a policy, right? The policy goes something like this. If you put money in our bank, we won't tell anybody that you put money in our bank. That's really convenient if you're breaking the law or you just want to hide a lot of cash you don't want to pay tax on. So the United States Internal Revenue Service wanted to seize records from UBS Bank on 52,000 Americans that have accounts in that bank, that they believe have accounts in that bank. And Hillary Clinton, Secretary of State, steps in, again, nothing to do with anything. This is not her purview. She has no authority to do this. But she went in and brokered a deal with UBS because UBS doesn't want to give this up because they're going to lose all of the banking power they have in the world because no one will trust them anymore. If you give up to the IRS, you're worthless to hide money. This is no longer a shelter. They have a national policy on banking. We'll never tell anybody anything. But they cut a deal for 4,600, 4,300, something like that. Very small number compared to 52,000 people that they were going to allow them to look at. Who do you think they trimmed out of that list? Everybody in politics, including a crap load of Clinton stuff. This is absolutely textbook, RICO, criminal, money laundering, bribery. Everything in this is illegal, viciously. And it's scary as hell. I promise you, look for some very serious distractions in the very near future. For instance, do you know that our military is off of the coast of South America? Probably isn't getting a lot of coverage up north, but we're certainly getting a lot of coverage down here, aren't we? We are. The United States has sent a battle group of some really rowdy warships off the coast of Venezuela. This may come as a shock too, but we had a $25 million bounty on the guy running that country. Doesn't that sound kind of weird for us to do that? There's something mafia about that, isn't that? We'll give you $25 million if you can bump the guy off. We've raised it to 50 apparently recently. It's going to get cloudy. They're trying to bury this story more than anything in the whole world. And I said, when I thought we lost the current president is because once he got his mitts on these files and realized that he can cook Barack Obama, he can cook Hillary Clinton, he can cook the Loretta Lynch. He can cook everybody in that entire administration. He could destroy the Democratic Party. Hey, Shane, or hey, Kenny the Warrior. Good to have you here. Ashley, what's happening? Warships not in Ecuador. No, we're cool here. The warships in my front yard are actually our warships. We're very happy with that. Yeah, well, here's the thing. This is where it gets crazy, folks. And this is why I'm going live, because I literally feel like I'm about to die. But the reason I'm going live tonight is because this is a story that people aren't going to tell. I think that the reason that bills are getting passed real quickly these days is because we got enough dirt. One party has enough dirt now on the other party to absolutely bury them. Bury them. There's enough blackmail to go around to everybody. The head of the FBI, what was that tall guy's name? His daughter, Comey. Yeah, Comey stood up there and said, there's not going to be any prosecution. He's filthy, filthy dirty. He had a deal between he and Loretta Lynch, because if she came out and said that, well, then she could be prosecuted. That's a conflict of interest massively. You know why? Because she had tens of thousands of emails on Hillary Clinton's computer that were not sent to a secure server. They knew what they were doing, because everything on that server, it wasn't so she could work at the House. That was all the deals they were cutting to sell access to the United States government. Bill Clinton made $110 million in speaker fees. You know what? That was my wheelhouse for a period of time in my life. Now, I wasn't the guy commanded $250,000 to go on stage and do speeches. But at that time, I could tell you what, everybody on earth was getting paid to go do speeches. And you could get any president alive for $250,000. This guy gets $10 million to go in and make speeches. And I found one donation to the Clinton Global Initiative from a college that I swear to God has absolutely no reason for. Like it just seems to more, not to the CGI, but to specifically to Bill Clinton. Like you were setting up for some kind of a speaking arrangement, but he never went to the college for any reason. Famously, in an interview, Hillary Clinton said, when we left the White House, we were broke. Broke. After she left as Secretary of State, they didn't have any money. So they had to do something to start making some cash. Well, they killed it. Boy, did they make some money. Obama's net worth has quadrupled in 8 years. Nice trick. Well, that insider info really helps the whole stock market thing. If I say to you, buy Blue Star Airlines, right? and you want to dump that on the 13th, probably about 8, 9 o'clock in the morning, because we're going to announce a bunch of stuff about it. It makes it really easy to make a whole lot of money. But make no mistake, just like when Bill Clinton was in office and we found out that one of his interns had given him a mouth hug, Air Supply, welcome, you look fantastic and green. We found out that Monica Lewinsky had given him a mouth hug just out in a room off of the Oval Office. What did he do? Well, he started dropping bombs and sending warplanes places that we didn't even realize we had problems in. Right? Because it's really easy to distract the American people. It's really easy to distract the world. In fact, everybody who read this interview is talking about who's on the list. She admits in this interview that she gave him the planes to fly to see these people that were paying him to speak. She set up all of the contacts. In fact, hold on a second, and we'll see. Maxwell said, when the Deputy Attorney General, whether she was a part of the startup, she said, oh, I was. I would say I was very central to that, yes. She also said, Epstein supported me in this to help them. But I think he may have tried to use that to insert himself in some way. I could catch him on the phone, and he wouldn't always agree with what I wanted to do. And I was like, it's not your idea. I don't really care what you think, but that didn't go over so well. Very central to the entire design of this thing, but that gets weirder, right? If that's not weird enough, right? And it should be. But if you take and you look at, and I suggest you do this, don't trust AI ever again, because they will decide what you think. And you'll think you're smarter for asking them to tell you something that's baloney. But if you look at the Clinton Global Initiative, I did a story on these people a gazillion freaking years ago, where after what happened in Haiti and they brought in all of that money, they put 2 trailer houses down there. 2! And I mean, they took in tens of millions of dollars. Air Supply, you are awesome. Yeah, I don't trust AI either. At this point, I don't trust anything. But if you go and look at the Clinton Global Initiative, it says this is a networking deal. This is a networking deal. She literally says, I thought Bill Clinton should own his own Davos, right? The meeting with all of the countries and the rich people that get together. I thought it would be cool if Bill had his own Davos and all of these people could come together and talk about what was going to happen in the world, providing they donate a ridiculous amount of money. That's not legal. It's called bribery. Now you go, that doesn't sound right. Well, if one of the people that's running it is in office, then that's bribery. She sold out the United States for cash. Plain and simple, cash. And the problem is, the fly in the ointment is what they couldn't predict would happen was some weirdo that liked to send pictures to 15-year-old girls of him, well, you know, polishing his stuff up. Wharton, good to see you. Hey, Reese, this is one of those relatable, Reese. Thank you for joining us. This is one of those things that the more you dive into this, the more it starts to look very centralized. There was a group of people that made this stop. There was a group of people that made this go away. Now, before you go, oh, I hate him, you know, I like the Democrats and he's trashing them. When our president, current one, said, I'm going to drain the swamp, and when I get in there, you're going to find out about the Epstein stuff, I was right a month ago when I said, he opened this file and said, this is the absolute holy grail when it comes to blackmailing all of my enemies. I'm not joking you. There's a clip of film out there of Hillary Clinton joking about being willing to put Donald Trump in for a Nobel Peace Prize because of what he's doing currently between with negotiating peace in several regions. He's trying to do this. And she said, I would put him in for that personally. Does that sound even remotely normal to you? If I told you 2 months ago that Hillary Clinton would be quoted saying she wanted to put Donald Trump in for a Nobel Peace Prize, what would you have said?
I would have bet against it.
He would have bet against it. And he's pretty sharp, that pepper eater. So here's the deal. Why would she do that? Because he holds her in the palm of his hand. Why would you take Ghislaine Maxwell and put her to a minimum security prison against every rule in the Bureau of Prisons? Her crime makes it so you can never be at a low, ever, ever. Why? Because you can walk out the front door of a low and just keep walking. They don't have fences. They don't have guard towers. It's kind of an honor system. You can have your girlfriend meet you in the parking lot, you know, and hang out for a little while. None of it is right. This is one of the most foul things that ever happened. But you know something? That pepper eater burned me once. I remember that story, actually. It was pretty fun. This is the craziest part of all of this. The craziest part of all of this is our current president, our last president, and the president before him were all ready to sacrifice 1,000 women who got viciously abused. They know their names. They know what happened to them. And you know what? They just got together for a really cool meeting and did a press conference. And they said in the press conference, no one wants to do anything about this. We're going to build a black book. We're all going to get together and say who we were forced to have sex with. And we're going to put together the list of the names of all these people. And then a reporter said, what are you going to do with it? Stay tuned was the answer. I love it, man. I absolutely love it. I would love to see all of the survivors of this get together and start wrecking the lives of the liars that spent so much damn time on that island. I have done a lot of shows on Epstein, a lot. And usually my tact had something to do with the federal prison part of it because I spent a lot of time in the shoe in federal prison, and nothing about how he died makes sense. None of it. Like when they, you know, in the logbook where it says, you know, they missed the 5 o'clock count or they missed the 9 o'clock count. No count has ever been missed in a prison, ever. No, nothing will run until the count is in. So when they go, yeah, you know, we just didn't do a count, that never has happened. It can't. They have systems in place so that if you don't do a count, everything locks down, alarms go off. Every once in a while, some guy will end up in a place he shouldn't be and not get back before he gets locked in. And they panic in a way that you cannot imagine. If you do not get the count in, everything goes to hell. We've been lied to about this. And the sad part is that there are so many countries involved in this. Great Britain and the monarchy and everybody else donated so much money to the Clinton Global Initiative. If you look at the list of donors worldwide, like the big ones, UBS, by the way, the bank that didn't have to turn over the remaining 48,000 whatever people's names, they made a very sizable donation, about 500 grand or 600 grand, I believe, a year, just on a repeating basis. Yeah. And you know what? Guess who ran that show?
Who ran it?
They got their daughter involved in it. Apparently she was doing a little work as well. May as well do the nepotism thing. If you got $250 million laying around, tell you what though, some of that money has to go to the Epstein people. Yeah, for real. How do you think, and why do you think that of most of the cash that comes in, a lot of it was in Africa? Bill Clinton was on jets flying all over Africa. Why Africa? That doesn't make a lot of sense. Maybe because that's where Epstein bought and sold arms, right? Through that whole period of time, once he started to get into the world of selling guns for a living, because if you research this cat's past, that is exactly what he was doing. He was involved in the Iran-Contra affair. But his real skill was hiding money, not in suitcases. But he could move $1 billion across the world without anybody raising an eyebrow. So if you're the Clintons, this guy's a wet dream. He knows all of the warlords in Africa, and you can get a donation from all of them. And why wouldn't they give you a donation? Because the United States of America is giving them $2 billion a year in aid, kicking back $10 million to the Secretary of State. Seems like a good investment. Is this making sense? We don't have a democracy of any kind. We don't. We have a couple of oligarch families that basically run this country. The Bushes and the Clintons scare the crap out of me, both of them. How is it that Clinton and Bush are best friends? Reaching across the aisle, had to wait until they were both out of office, right, so that they could profit on it. There's no right or left wing. You hear that? There's not. There's not a right wing. There's not a left wing. It's all freaking smoke and mirrors. It is. I don't know who's pulling the strings, but it ain't the Republicans and it ain't the Democrats. And who's ever pulling the strings does not want this story to get out, and they're not going to be able to stop it. They're not. There's just way too much in this that is really easy to research. Do not use AI if you're going to research this stuff, or stick around because I'm going to be off in about 3 minutes. I'll be really honest with you folks. I got a little bead of sweat that's running down the middle of my back. This has been Johnny's a wreck today. And the funny thing is, yesterday, Johnny was like, well, I'm over it, man. He's like, that was 2 really awful days. I feel great. He was running around. He went to the store. I was like, what the deuce? But yeah, it's the, oh, and I got to say this real quick. Couple of things. Number one, you can get a parasite from drinking water in places that are developing nations. That is not what happened. This is not a parasite. This was something that is a chemical of sorts in the water. So it's a very different thing. People are like, man, how do you know not to drink the water? No, we were buying bottled water. This came out of bottled water. I've never taken a sip from water any other way in this country. But I pour that now through 2 filtering systems, even though I'm buying it in a jug. Marjorie Taylor Greene has offered to take the list and read it out in Congress for the victims. Love it. Absolutely love it. I really do. That is just amazing. And you got to love it. Let me see here. Yeah, that's exactly sorry. It's the secret club of evil. Yeah, it is. It's the secret club of evil. And I'm going to be doing shows on this, but I'm going to do it. I wanted to give you guys a teaser of this. And if you've been with me for any length of time, every story that I ever went nuts on started exactly like this. One of you said, hey man, you know what's going on with Diddy? Yeah, Ashley, a 5-gallon carboy of water that we purchased. And it was bad. There was stuff in the bottom of it. And Tony Loretta says it's the secret club and we're not in it. And you know what, Tony? Thank God you're not in that club. Thank God you're not in that club. There should not be an amount of money on planet Earth where you go, I mean, if you give me $2 billion, I'm okay with 1,000 people being molested. Yeah, there's you know who's going to get that reference before anyone else? Reese was raised by George Carlin. I'm not sure if you knew that. Yeah, the sip from bottled water is a little bit scary. So here's the other thing. I got a comment from somebody that caused a little bit of a kerfuffle because the person said something along the lines of, hey, I'm 23 minutes in and you're talking about drugs. I want you guys to pay attention real quick. I haven't had to talk about this on the show for a really long time, but let me see if this makes sense to you. The other night, I talked about what it's like when you have a cellmate that hates you. You don't get along with them in any way, nothing in common at all. If you can find one common thread that the two of you can share, a love of Gilligan's Island, anything where you speak the same language, you can start to build from that because connection is the opposite of everything negative on planet Earth, right? So if I'm on here and I'm talking about putting a needle in my arm, or I'm on here talking about horking up fat lines, right? Or going 10 and 2 on a meth pipe, I'm not doing it for effect. A great number of people that watch this are still in the life. And when the only thing they hear about is a world that they can't envision, right? Recovery is a beautiful thing. But if you quit, doing fentanyl last night, I promise you, or you're on fentanyl wanting to quit, these are not concepts that are easy to grasp. That's why the most important thing is that you make contact. It's why needle exchange programs exist, whether you realize it or not. Harm reduction starts with two people that can agree on anything. Hey, it would be better if you didn't get AIDS, right? Okay, come by and get a free needle. And they don't ask questions. They don't make them nervous. They don't push them. But by the fifth visit, they go, hey, do you need any hygiene stuff? We give it away for free. You want some soap, little packets of water, any of the stuff that we can give you so that you're healthier. And there's, I could use shoes. We don't have shoes, but come back the next time. What size you got? Now you're building a relationship. And by the second month of doing this stuff, they go, are you happy in this life? Like, I'm not trying to be a jerk, man, but are you happy banging dope every day? You happy with tracks all the way up and down your arms? You happy waking up with your nose wide open? Begging a dude for a match head? Any of you get any of those references? Because somebody in the life just got every single one of them. So if you don't understand why I mention drugs on my show, it's probably because you haven't spent the last 4 years doing what I do for a living. So God bless. You're going to want to come back, people. I'm going to tear this thing open. I'm really going to get people to get a look at what is going on, because I promise you, the Epstein story, they want you to talk about a client list. You know why? Because it works so well in the Diddy case, right? Keep talking about all the rich and famous people that were probably at Diddy parties, and he just walks on charges that they should have been able to slam dunk him on. If they were smart, they just would have gone with abuse and he would have done more time in prison, and they had video of that. It's all smoke and mirrors, and we got to start being far more attentive. We have to pay way more attention. I missed this, and this is what I'm into. I mean, she literally explains in her interview exactly what's going on, but everyone wants to hear Trump's name, or everybody wants to hear this person's name. And screw the list. Why did this happen? I've done a lot of shows on this. No? And one of the questions that we bring up a lot is, why is there a picture of Bill Clinton in a blue dress in the living room of Epstein's house? And I have said it's a representation, like the prison thing of saying that's my female dog, right? He's my bitch, bottom line. Well, if you got the kind of dirt on him that it seems Epstein had, and I'm not talking about him banging kids, which is awful, and I'm sure that dirt existed, but there was also all of the stuff that was going on with the Clinton Global Initiative. When they said he was on that guy's jet this many times, not always going to Lolita Island. He was going to pick up $10 million checks for talking for 25 minutes. I don't care who you are on planet Earth. A 25-minute talk ain't getting you $10 million unless there's a bribe involved. For real. Highest paid speakers on planet Earth command about 500 grand normally to show up. This is insane. Ex-presidents, probably 2 million, but 10 a whack for Bill Clinton? He wasn't Ronald Reagan, folks. In terms of speech, I'm not talking in terms of being a president, but in terms of being a fantastic public speaker, I feel your pain. All right, people. Feel my pain. Johnny, feel any better? He's lying. You should see him. All right, people, between now and the next time I see you, put a little love in your heart. I'm Tommy. This is The Love Boat. We'll see you on the next one. Don't get lied to. For real. Don't let a computer tell you what something is. Do a little research. It's fun.